A black Labrador Retriever just moved into my neighborhood. He was shiny and friendly, and he wagged his tail every time I walked by. And I said immediately, I'm gonna make this dog my friend. His name was Proline, and he belonged to my neighbor Shane. Shane, on the other hand, was not so friendly and shiny. In fact, he was the grumpiest person I have ever met. But I was not gonna let this grouch stand in the way of my new friendship. And so it began. I started walking by every day and greeting Proline. Shane would ignore me. I then slowly started playing with Proline. Shane got visibly annoyed. And then I even tried one time to feed Proline my homemade vegan dog treats, to which Shane said, "Get your hippie shit away from my dog." But I continued. And the persistence did pay off, and finally, after 3 months, we formed a friendship. And Proline and I did too. I lived in a very rough neighborhood in Toronto. I was surrounded by transitional housing, which means everyone who lived around me was just coming out of prison. And Shane was 56 at the time, and he had spent 40 years in and out of prison. So one would think that stranger danger alarm bells would start ringing, but I couldn't really describe it. I just knew that somewhere below this thick layer of grouch, there laid a heart of gold. And I'm really happy that I trusted my opinion over society's, because it then blossomed into a beautiful friendship. Every day that I'd walk by, he'd see me and he'd yell, "Wild child!" He only called me a wild child. "Stay a while." He'd tell me tales of him making prison moonshine or prison art. Sometimes he'd say, "Wild child, are you really wearing that outfit? It's awful." What can I say? He was brutally honest and harshly wise, but he never failed to make me laugh, and that was really hard to come by in a city like Toronto. Toronto, it's big, it's fun, it's vibrant, it's diverse, but it can be so loud and intimidating. And it was even called the Big Smoke before. I mean, I felt suffocated there. I felt alone sometimes. And Shane, just like me, grew up in a small town in northern Ontario, so we bonded at this mutual awe and confusion of this big city. One Christmas, I couldn't go home, and so Shane invited me over for Christmas Eve dinner, which I thought was quite funny since I've only ever seen him drink beer and chain smoke cigarettes, so I was quite excited. So I get to his apartment, and there I see a whole table covered with trays of mashed potatoes and vegetables and 2 massive cooked turkeys. You would think that. However, I went up to Shane and I said, Shane, this is really awkward. I'm a vegetarian. He says, "Wild child, this food is not for you." I was like, "Okay, rude, you invited me over for dinner." So we started making to-go meals, about 20 or so, with all the food, and then we put 2 unlabeled cigarettes on top and tied a little bow. And what I realized then is that we were making Christmas meals for everyone in the housing complex. So one after the other, people would come and they would beam with gratitude, and the whole apartment was warm. And I saw how Shane, who was this jolly, unconventional Santa Claus, turned out to be a host in one of the most safest and warmest places for these people. After 6 years, I moved to Europe, and due to a little pandemic, I couldn't come back So I had to wait, and finally when I could return, I went straight to the neighborhood, and I looked for Shane. But I couldn't see Proline lazing under the tree. I couldn't see Shane in his yard, and I felt two shoulders behind me. I turned around, and it's Gary, my other neighbor. He says, "Wild child, you're back." And I say, "Yeah." I couldn't wipe the confusion off my face. And he says, "Are you looking for Shane?" And I nod. And he tells me, "I am so sorry. Shane passed away last year." And I felt gutted. I mean, the whole weight of the city made me crumble, literally right there on the street. And my neighbors, in my grief, they handed me a bundle of dry tobacco. And in the spirit, in indigenous cultures, you can burn tobacco to send messages to the spirit world. And so this is what I did, under the tree where Proline used to live. Shane, he built this tiny world for people who are the most isolated in our society, and he made them feel safe. And even though Shane and I come from completely different backgrounds and realms, I always knew that when I would go to his yard, I would also feel at home with him in Proline. Thank you very much.